We are facing the abyss of fascism right in front of us. It's right here. I never expected it would be here.
Why is Trump making the U.S. less safe?
Right. Well, that is the more concerning one, right? Because I think we need to amplify the good stories out there because corporate media has made Trump omnipotent. But in terms of making America less safe, that's not just my opinion. I had Congressman Dan Goldman last week, who's on the House Homeland Security Committee, former federal prosecutor, and Frankie, who served in the FBI for over 25 years. And they both noted that Trump's purge of FBI agents, his offering to buy out anyone in the CIA or NSA who wants to go, and they're not replacing them with people who are public servants. We learned over the weekend from the Washington Post that you have to answer yes to 2 questions. Was the 2020 election stolen? And was January 6th an inside job? And if you answer no, you don't get hired. I'm not kidding. That was in the Washington Post reporting on Sunday. So Trump is making us less safe. And we know he's making us less safe. That's indisputed.
Well, let me add one thing to this, too.
Sure.
If I could just add one other way that he's making us unsafe. You'll recall when bin Laden wrote his letter to America, he told us that he was going, this was 1998, that he was going to strike us because George Herbert Walker Bush had convinced Saudi Arabia to put an Air Force base, the bin Sultan Air Force Base in Saudi Arabia, to stage, flights, F-16s or F-35s or whatever they are, into Iraq. And then we never pulled our troops out. And bin Laden was really pissed off that there were, men, watching porn and women driving cars with their elbows showing inside Saudi Arabia. And he said, if you don't remove these people, I'm going to hit you. And 3 weeks after 9/11, George W. Bush pulled all of the American troops out of the bin Sultan Air Force Base and shut that thing down. But that, he was, the reason we got hit on 9/11 was because we were occupying Arab soil. And now, just this morning, Trump just came out and said, I forget the word about, or something, words to that effect, about buying and owning Gaza. What,
I'm not, right.
Piss off a few people, you think?
It would, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, just today, Israel and Netanyahu complied with another term in the ceasefire, and they're withdrawing troops from the northern part of
No, but
Gaza.
I mean, just the rhetoric is enough to cause people to want to attack us.
Wanting to attack us and actually engaging in a terrorist attack is a different thing. To me, there are numerous threats. It's not just from Islamic threats, from radicals. You've got the biggest threat in America is right-wing white supremacists. That's a threat we have to deal with. Absolutely. It doesn't matter where the threat comes from. The question is, what happens when there is a terrorist attack on U.S. soil? Because there will be. And Trump, I think, is making us less safe. I'm not going to say he's rooting for a terrorist attack because I don't have evidence of that. I think it's fair to say that, but I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is, what's he going to do when it happens, when it comes? And history tells us what he will do. And Timothy Snyder's book on tyranny tells us what he's going to do. And, the picture on my article is the Reichstag fire from 1933 Germany. Hitler used that to get the Enabling Act passed, which made him a dictator. The day after the fire burned down the German parliament, he said that you can arrest anybody and hold them for unlimited periods of time. It doesn't matter who calls the Reichstag fire. The debate is, did Hitler do it himself? The point is, when that happened, how will Trump respond? Everyone listening knows Trump will use any emergency, any attack to consolidate power and take away and suspend more of our civil liberties. We all know that. There is no debating that. That's why when he's making us safe, when you do 2 + 2 = 4, that's where we're going. And that's what so concerns me, Tom, is that Trump is taking us, he's following the authoritarian playbook on numerous issues. I keep writing about it and flagging it for people, from defending the January 6th terrorists to using the FCC to go after the media, and the checklist goes off and off. And this is just another one on that list. We are seeing the story. It's not a surprise, folks, when Trump has the military in the blue cities occupying us, taking over media outlets and suspending our civil liberties. It's all there in front of us. The question is, does that happen or not? But don't be surprised if it does, because everything is telling us that's where he's going. It's not hyperbolic. It's not speculative. This is the playbook he's following.
Yeah, yeah. And Putin, used that attack on the theater in Chechnya to radically expand his power. I mean, there's a long history of this. You're absolutely right. And when Maris van der Lubbe set the Reichstag on fire, within 30 minutes, Hitler had rushed to the scene and grabbed a microphone and said, "This is a sign from God," that he was ordained to rule in Germany. It's pretty mind-boggling stuff. So I agree with you. The other piece you wrote, more profiles of courage, patriotism, and resistance in standing up to Trump. This was kind of an uplifting piece. Tell us about this.
We need uplifting. My goal on my show and in my articles, I've done this 2 weeks in a row, is to try to amplify the profiles in patriotism, courage, compassion, and resistance, because they're out there. They're not hard to find. Corporate media is just ignoring them because they're too busy making Trump the dictator they want. And I say that sincerely of the executives who really want the tax cuts, the mergers that Trump is offering, and less regulations will trade our democracy for it. But look, this week, no one's more critical of Democrats not fighting, Tom, than me. I was on the show talking about how Democrats need to punch Trump in the face every day, come up with ways to get the media narrative away from him. But this week, we saw Democrats actually go outside of the Capitol, go to rallies outside of U.S. Treasury and USAID. We also had profiles in courage in terms of different grassroots organizations and unions bringing lawsuits, and then numerous judges standing up to Trump, even a Trump-appointed one, Carl Nichols, and a Reagan-appointed one, and numerous Democratic-appointed ones who stood up to Trump and stopped them on issue after issue, from the buyout to the birthright citizenship, trying to rewrite the 14th Amendment, to the spending freeze that he wants to do, to barring Elon Musk and his minions from getting the data, and the court order is they must immediately destroy all the data they have gathered. And people go, well, how do you enforce it? Well, it's inherent in the courts to do contempt, which can be fines or imprisonment. That's inherent. That's how you do it. The only one protected from that is Trump, who will not be fined, of course. But you can't protect someone. You can't give someone immunity for civil contempt for enforcing an order. There's no, it's not criminal. So the reality is that judges are doing the great things. All of us together, we are collectively standing against the abyss of fascism. We are facing the abyss of fascism right in front of us. It's right here. I never expected it would be here. Yeah, we're facing it now.
I didn't either, although I've been warning about it for years. I started, my voice started getting higher and higher back after 9/11 when Bush pushed through the Patriot Act and opened Guantanamo and just openly defied the Constitution and international law at Abu Ghraib and other places. But yeah, I didn't think it would go this bad this fast. It's pretty friggin' shocking. Dean, you're an attorney. I'm not. We're both familiar with judicial supremacy and judicial review. You know, the doctrines that largely came out of Marbury versus Madison, but have been respected all these years. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on, you know, it looks like the Trump administration right now, or the Musk administration, I think probably more properly, is defying a court order to get out of the Treasury Department and to stopping the Treasury payments. There's a couple of other court orders that it looks like they're also defying that are going to be re-examined, one this afternoon and one on Thursday of this week. A year ago, J.D. Vance pointed to President Andrew Jackson ignoring two U.S. Supreme Court orders. One, he didn't actually defy, but he ignored, one having to do with the second U.S. bank, and then the second one, the Trail of Tears. And that story is a little more complicated, too, because it was really executed by the next president. But, you know, he got the gears rolling. And then earlier this week, he tweeted, or a couple days ago, he tweeted that the executive does not have to do what the courts say. The courts can't micromanage the president, basically. These things are, you know, in defiance of a traditional understanding of the separation of powers in the United States. My understanding is that only federal marshals can basically enforce the decrees of federal judges. And federal marshals, of course, are overseen by Pam Bondi, who's overseen by Donald Trump. What happens when the Trump administration just comes right out and says, you know, we're going to ignore these court orders, particularly if one comes down from the Supreme Court? If they just say, we're just going to ignore it. We're just going to keep on putting people in Gitmo. We're just going to keep on, you know, withholding funds. We're going to, you know, we're just going to run this country like I'm a dictator.
Well, that's their goal. But here, look, I think even the Supreme Court of the United States would uphold using the contempt power, which is inherent in our court system from day one, to enforce judgments. Because if not, then the Supreme Court is making themselves just 9 people in a robes walking around.
But how do you enforce a judgment against Trump?
The court order will be not against Donald Trump. If right now, you have to look at each of the cases. For example, the U.S. Treasury case, it's against Doge, right? It's against the Doge guys and Elon Musk. The court's going to order them to compel them to comply with the order, destroy the information we
Right,
told
it
you.
already has, but it looks like that's not the case, and there's no evidence that they've destroyed the information.
Well, if there's any evidence they have not, then the litigants on the other side who brought the lawsuit are going to say to the judge, they're in violation of the order. The judge is going to say, I'm compelling compliance of it. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fine you every day X amount. If you don't do it, then I'm going to put you in a prison cell until you give us the documents. And if Pam Bondi says, I'm not going to allow court orders to be upheld, then the court will order Pam Bondi and DOJ to do the right thing. Because it's leading to a constitutional crisis. But if people could just simply say, we're going to ignore your orders, we would not have the system already. There's already there's checks. There's certain ways there that you're going to find people, federal marshals, and do the right thing. You're going to find a court that's going to impose $1,000 day, $10,000, $1 million day fines on
You think Elon Musk would care?
He might not care, but he'll care if he goes to a prison cell. If he's rounded up, Donald Trump can't stop that. You know, we can't put Trump in prison, right? Because DOJ's memo says.
But that's my point. I think he can stop it because it would require federal marshals who work for him.
They work for him, but they're federal marshals who are going to be more loyal to the Constitution than Donald Trump, who are going to defy his orders.
Well, I admire your optimism here, Dean.
There's going to be. You don't need a lot. You need a few. Then the system ends. Then Tom, the whole thing ends.
I know.
It would have ended before, though.
I'm as freaked out as I can get.
If it was that simple, it would have ended before.